That's better.
Right, a pleasure to be here. James Cooke,
Pleasure
good
to be
friend,
with you.
fellow coach, speaker, and author of operations management. But you've had a fascinating career. 33 years in the police, on serious matters, strategic matters, gun crime, now the security matters. And now you speak and you advise and you coach people. And one of the things that we were talking about recently was the importance of a great team.
Yes.
Additionally to that, one of the things that you also do is some projects on special kind of security. I guess in so many of these environments that having a great team is really, really key. I'm curious, when did you first become aware how important a great team is?
I mean, it was literally for the very first outstanding team that I worked with was at Notting Hill between 1990 and 94. There was 30 of us, 30 constables, 5 sergeants and an inspector. But what made this team stand out from all others that I served with to that moment in time was the incredible sense of camaraderie between people and the will and drive to get the job done properly. Out on the street, we had one of the highest arrest rates in the district, let alone for that station alone. And everybody played their part. PCs, their supervisors, their immediate supervisors, and the team leader working as one. But what was difficult to define was what made that team really stand out. And for me, after several months, years with them, there are some particular characteristics that stand out for me. And that is that it's not just driven by the skills of the individuals involved, the experience, but it's driven by aptitude and personality. And so much of our day-to-day work was dealing with some very harrowing situations. But we all had a particular sense of humour, and that humour, how it blended together between different people, was essential to how we performed, because it put people at ease, being able to actually go into work and not only do the job properly, but have some fun at the same time.
Well, this is interesting. I think already what you're saying is fascinating, because some people feel that in organisations, things like having fun or people doing things socially and so on is, it's a nice bonus, but it's not essential. And I think we've spoken a few times, and there's one time where you made the point that, if people don't get on, if they don't actually like each other, in certain situations things will just not work. There have been situations, if you didn't just trust that person. Tell us a little bit about why that is so.
There's something about where you feel at ease with people and you fit into a team, is it opens up all the cognitive processes as a manager and as a leader, and you can actually behave as you are naturally, and you can show your true abilities. Whereas if you're with people that you don't feel comfortable with, you don't trust, you're constantly looking over your shoulder, which I've had to do several times in my career with certain teams that have been difficult, it closes off that process of management and leadership.
I should say at that point we're in King's Cross Pancras. We've got a very loud announcement here.
We're about to get on the train to Paris.
We could. We're right next door. We'd have to just leave. Well, I'm sure you've done things like this before. We'd have to leave both out. But we're here in the champagne bar. No champagne. Just some orange juice and just some water. But what you're saying here is absolutely fascinating, because you're saying that cognitively and on lots of different levels, that actually, if people feel as though they're looking over their shoulder, if they're not feeling comfortable, they're just not going to perform at their best. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be interacting as good as they could. And does this? You found that this works in any team, in any particular
situation, and it's almost like a mystical mix that goes into this. So it's a combination of skill, personality, and aptitude for doing the job. And if you can get that balance right, you're on your road to outstanding performance. And that's not an easy road to cover. And you're often, as a manager or leader, you will inherit a team of people who could be quite dysfunctional.
Now, this is a really good point, because I was going to ask you a little bit about that. Because, as you're speaking there, I was going to ask you a little bit about, do you feel that the secret to a great team is starting with psychometric tests, this or that, or whatever? But you gave us a wonderful starting point there, that actually, as a leader, you may go in and you might inherit a whole range of different people who've probably come in at all different times and under all different circumstances. What's the key when you're going into that kind of environment as a leader, let's say, and you've inherited a range of different people?
You've got to stand back for a few weeks, even a few months, and actually assess what you've got. And that means watching people at work and at play. So it's both sides, not just in the workplace, but also in the social setting, how they behave with each other and towards their own self-respect.
And so presumably, if you're on a team and they work so hard they don't socialise together, you've got to find out the times when they're just perhaps banter, or times where there's a bit of informality, or toward the end of a team meeting or whatever, or when they're just chatting to you as an aside.
Because it's very disclosing about people's attitudes towards each other, whether they're selfish or they're selfless in their attitude to their colleagues, how they deal with people in difficult circumstances, both staff and people outside, members of the public. And I began to learn that so much of, for instance, team selection is not about tick box culture, about skills and experience. It's much more than that. It's about personality and the personality mix. And the manager's role is very much pairing personalities carefully and effectively once they've got that understanding of team members. So the same amount of effort you put into your own self-analysis before you start out on your journey as a manager has to be put into your team and understanding what makes them tick.
Well, I think it's so interesting what you're saying, because I wonder, do you feel as though we've gone into an era in which the fact that we're very strategically aware of what needs to be done and what needs to be achieved has overshadowed some of these subtle personality issues, because we tend to hear from, okay, this is a strategy, this is what we need to deliver, and that tends to be the dialogue. There doesn't seem to me that much talk about personality, how people really get on, and that's some of the things that you're talking about, which are, for me, it's music to my ears. But do you feel as though we've gone a little bit down that road?
I guarantee we've gone down that road, and it's tantamount in a lot of corporate atmospheres that you get is very clinical, very forensic. You turn up, you do your job, and then you leave for home. An outstanding team is so much more than that. I mean, to get that extra performance means people all pulling together in a selfless way to do the job in the very best possible circumstances. And that requires a whole new range of attitudes and mindset for the people involved. And that can only come about through the leader, the supervisors of that team, actually generating the atmosphere that is required to do that. So that means dealing and managing the difficult characters, of which there are always difficult characters on the team, and actually engendering a selfless attitude to each other and to the work in hand.
Right, just to put this into context, I wonder if you could just share to people who are watching some of the environments that you've been in where you've been functioning as part of a team. I just want to paint the picture of why this group dynamic can be very important. Can you just paint us a picture in terms of person?
Notting Hill, this particular team in question, the very first weekend I was there, we were dealing with a particularly problematic family. There were the younger son of the family was a well-known drugs dealer, and he'd acquired a number of pit bull terriers to use an intimidatory tool, weapon, in effect. And he was intimidating the pub owners to allowing him to supply drugs on licensed premises. And one Sunday afternoon, my boys and girls stopped this character.
This is your team, you were the sergeant. Yeah.
And the son in question basically said, "You've had it. I'm going to set something up, and I'm going to take one of you down in the next 2 weeks." Now, to me, that was an outrageous thing to say out loud. And
this is kind of apt security announcement as you're just talking to us about this kind of matter.
If you notice any suspicious items or behaviour, please report it immediately to a member of staff or to the British Transport
Very
Police.
appropriate.
Very appropriate.
Hopefully we're not seen as suspects on the concourse here, Rasheed.
But it's fascinating. So you're saying a very serious situation in a locality where somebody involved in drugs is intimidating people in our public space. And tell us a little bit about the team.
Now, the team's response to that was basically to close ranks. We knew that we had a situation that had to be dealt with, otherwise the atmosphere of intimidation in the neighbourhood would just increase. If we didn't make a stand, nobody else was against this particular lad. In fact, the whole family were involved in crime. And we put together an operation over the course of 5 days to actually seize the pit bull terriers and to arrest the individual for threats to kill. And we accumulated a number of witness statements from the licensees and pubs and clubs in the area, and we put together a very comprehensive operation. Now, the problem with this operation was it was going to be controversial, because this particular lad was very well connected. He was extremely well connected into the political circles of the area at that time, back in the early 90s. And we knew that we would have local councillors and politicians around our neck immediately after raiding and arresting this individual. So the disturbance that I was going to cause to my team's careers and to their circumstances was serious.
You're saying something here that I think is also very important. I'm just wanting to link that to people who are managing a team in any particular situation. And one thing that struck me as soon as you were sharing that was that there are going to be times in whatever it is you're doing, you might be running a marketing agency, you might be running a large bank, whatever, or you could be running any type of organisation, a charity or what have you, or a local authority, any kind of organisation. And there are going to be times where there's issues about the team, there's issues about what it is you're strategically doing, and there are going to be issues that are going to require you to, they're going to raise all sorts of ethical, emotional, and so on issues. Then that's one of the things that I get a sense of.
Yes.
From this, because I guess that as soon as you've got a team in play, you've got a team who are there to achieve something strategic, and that suddenly you're going to find yourself in real life situations that are going to challenge you ethically as a leader, that's going to challenge that particular kind of environment, and therefore in that situation you described, you might think initially, okay, we've got an operation which is involved in doing X, Y and Z, and suddenly you look into it and it's requiring A, B and C. Is that one of the reasons why you make this point about how the personalities in a team are really important, and how people, not just the skill sets they've got, how they work personally and how they work socially is important, because they're going to be stretched, that they're going to be challenged, and be it by the economics or be it by changes going on in the organisation. Is this why you bring this?
I mean, it boils down, Rasheed, to trust, and trust is built up over time. The subtleties and nuances of day-to-day work together is going to highlight any weaknesses and strengths in that chain of your team working together.
Right.
And it's through testing, developing the strength of that chain that you actually engender loyalty and trust between your members. So that's what we were talking about in the first series of interviews. It's about outward perspective rather than thinking inward about your own circumstances, your own promotion, and your own welfare.
This is a really important point. So you're saying here that as a leader, I can be, that the danger might be, and it can happen, is that I'm so mindful about, I'm managing this team, I've got these corporate objectives to deliver and so on, and where I am in terms of my own career and so on, that if I'm not looking outwardly in terms of the team, the department, wherever it might well be, where they're at, what it is that they need, I'm going to miss something that's very, very, very important to really help them to grow and to deliver.
It's quickly compromised. Your operation is very quickly compromised because it will break. The linkage between team members will very quickly break. And
is that because they notice that I am distracted, I'm not present with them? Why is it that breaks so quickly? Is it just that you're just not present enough on the ground?
Because people are naturally very selfish. As you imagine, they're always looking towards their own circumstances. If something's going to threaten a situation at work, it
just all day-to-day challenges.
They will think, hang on, I don't like this, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this operation, this project, however difficult or challenging it is. I don't want to be a part of this. And you then get the kickback from key members of the team who don't want to play their part in this function. And this is something which is a phenomenon of modern management, and I saw it latterly at Scotland Yard at the very top senior tier of leadership is the individualism was taking over from teamwork, and it was this fear often of making the hard decisions, the unpopular decisions, to get the job done. That they were falling down on doing because of the threat that it posed to their own position.
This is lovely, and isn't it? This thing about that dynamic between the individual and the team, and I wonder what I'm very keen to do is perhaps pause the camera there and come back to perhaps pick up some checklist points from you in terms of if somebody is a manager now, perhaps new or established, just your checklist of things that they really should do, perhaps to help their team and for them, and I guess ultimately, how is it that they can deliver and move forward in terms of delivering what they need to deliver, mindful of lots of these challenges. So I think that might be a good point to pause and to come back, and I'll let you enjoy some of your chips and your, not quite champagne, but the still water that you've got here.
My water.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rasheed.